welcome to this explainer. Let's jump right in. Today we're diving into something absolutely mind-bending. It's about what happens to the human mind and honestly, maybe the human soul, when we are pushed to the absolute, literal edge of our existence.
I really want you to picture this. You're blasting away from Earth. All that noise of your daily routine, the stressful news cycle, the endless traffic jams, it all just fades away into this absolute, profound silence. And then you turn around and look back. What do you see? As our source material beautifully points out, you wouldn't see lines drawn on a map. You're not seeing the daily anxieties that completely consume us down here. No, you just see this incredibly quiet, fragile blue marble suspended in a vast ocean of dark. It is totally stripped of borders, stripped of wars, and completely devoid of language barriers. Just a breathtakingly beautiful sphere of light. If you were floating right there in that silence, what would actually be going through your head?
Okay, let's dive into this, because the answer to that question is sometimes deeply surprising. There's an interview detailed in our source material with Artemis II commander Reed Wiseman, projecting ahead to his return from space, and it reveals a truly fascinating detail. When he touches back down on Earth, his first request isn't, "Hey, let's go over the mission data," or "Give me the technical debrief." Nope. His request is, "I need to find a pastor." Now, this was a massive shock to a lot of people, mostly because he didn't exactly consider himself a highly religious guy. So you have to ask yourself, why would a rigorously trained scientific mind come back from the absolute peak of human technological achievement and immediately ask for spiritual guidance?
Well, Wiseman explained that what he went through up there was just completely beyond the human everyday. It wasn't merely a physical trip, it was a hardcore existential journey. The sheer, overwhelming silence, the terrifying vastness of the void, the crushing weight of existence itself. It was so heavy that he desperately needed a way to process it all. He needed a spiritual anchor, a simple religious symbol, to basically help him contextualize what he had just witnessed and bring him back down to reality, literally and figuratively.
And you know what? This isn't just some isolated incident. What Wiseman and so many other space travelers experience actually has an official, documented name. It's called the overview effect. It's this incredibly powerful cognitive shift that just hits astronauts when they see the Earth from space, and it permanently changes their mindset. They get struck by this overwhelming, almost paralyzing sense of awe. In a split second, their main identity shifts. They go from being a citizen of a specific country to simply being a citizen of Earth. They realize they belong to all of humanity. Astronauts report all the time that once you see the planet from that vantage point, you literally cannot go back to your old way of thinking. You just can't.
This really builds on the whole idea of our shared reality. Think about it. Down here on the ground, we have this incredibly noisy, chaotic human existence. We live in a world completely chopped up by borders, politics, and endless arguments. But up there you see the absolute reality of what our planet actually is. A single, borderless home suspended in light. The contrast is just stark. You have the artificial, invisible lines we fight over on the ground versus the silent, unified reality you see from space. And it's exactly that contrast that triggers such profound existential reflection.
To figure out why this hits us so hard, our source material introduces a really fascinating perspective drawn from biblical texts. The core idea is simple, but it is deeply profound. Humans are inherently wired to respond to glory. According to this framework, the cosmos isn't just some big, empty vacuum. No, it's a silent, ongoing declaration of a creator's glory. As the ancient text puts it, the heavens declare the glory of God. The universe itself is essentially speaking to us. But down here on Earth, we're usually just way too distracted to actually hear it.
Just think about your normal, everyday life for a second. We are constantly bombarded. We've got the glow of our screens, the concrete of our cities, just the relentless, nonstop noise of modern life. All those things act like a giant barrier. But when you take a human being, an astronaut, and place them in the extreme, isolating void of space, all of those earthly distractions are just violently stripped away. When a person is truly face-to-face confronted with the terrifying, beautiful vastness of the universe, the reverence they feel isn't something they have to force. The awe isn't manufactured at all. It is instinctively awakened.
Now, what's really interesting about this idea is a specific quote the source material uses to explain it. God has set eternity in the human heart. It points to this deeply repressed feeling that's buried inside every single one of us. It's that quiet, persistent, little nagging feeling that we aren't just meant for the mundane grind of going to work and paying bills, that we actually belong to a much larger, infinitely grander existence.
We might be really good at ignoring or suppressing that feeling while we're rushing around on Earth, but it never completely goes away.
So what happens when you put humans in the most extreme environment possible, like the absolute zero, borderless vacuum of space? Suddenly, that repressed feeling of eternity becomes overwhelmingly loud. I mean, facing infinity is a genuinely terrifying prospect. It makes you realize exactly how incredibly small you really are. And when faced with that infinite scale, human nature instinctively kicks in. We start searching for an anchor. This explains perfectly why even the most rigorous, strictly scientific, entirely non-religious minds might suddenly find themselves asking to speak to a pastor or desperately seeking out a spiritual symbol. They are essentially looking for a conceptual tether to keep themselves from just drifting away into the existential void.
So, the crucial point is this. When astronauts look down and say, wow, there are no borders, it sounds amazing, right? Like the ultimate utopian ideal of human unity? But our source material actually offers a much deeper lens here. It argues that simply looking at a borderless world doesn't magically fix it. True, lasting unity requires a repaired relationship with the creator of that world. It's ultimately about spiritual connection. Just gaining a lot of physical altitude and seeing the Earth from high up isn't enough to heal the human condition. And that brings us right back to those religious symbols and rituals that astronauts sometimes seek out. When you are staring directly into the face of infinity, rituals provide a handle you can grab onto. But the source material makes a really important distinction. Those symbols aren't the final destination. They're merely signposts. They are anchors we use to process these wildly sacred, overwhelming moments. But they ultimately only point to the ultimate answer, the one who actually created the infinite void in the first place.
Because of this deep-seated wiring, we see humans doing something incredibly fascinating. We literally pack up our search for meaning and bring it right up into the cosmos with us. History is full of examples. Human beings have prayed while in orbit. Buzz Aldrin famously took communion right there on the surface of the moon during the Apollo 11 mission. Think about that. Regardless of culture, regardless of specific belief systems, people inevitably find ways to respond to the awe of space. It just goes to show that worship, reverence, and the search for God are never bound to just one single geographical spot on Earth. We take that intense yearning for connection with us wherever we go.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when the overview effect strips everything away. It acts like a giant cosmic mirror, forcing the biggest, most universal questions right up to the surface. Stripped of our nationalities, stripped of our daily jobs and routines, we are left asking the heavy hitters. Where do I come from? Why do I even exist? Does any of this actually have meaning? The fact that our deepest, most primal reaction to the universe isn't just cold indifference or nihilism, but instead this profound, overwhelming awe, well, that tells us something incredibly important about human nature. But there is a limit to what the cosmos can teach us just on its own. There's a massive, profound difference between seeing the breathtaking works of nature and truly knowing the creator behind them. Sure, seeing the universe from space can completely shatter your old worldview. It can definitely make you realize we are all one big human family. But simply looking at the stars, that can't fully answer the question of who you are personally. Natural wonder can point you toward the existence of a grand designer, absolutely, but it takes a much deeper, more personal revelation to actually know them.
Now, here's the beautiful part. You don't have to strap yourself into a rocket and travel thousands of miles into the void to experience a piece of this. Sometimes, just stepping outside on a quiet night, getting away from the glaring city lights, and just looking up at the vast expanse of the Milky Way, that is more than enough to trigger that exact same sense of awe. It's a quiet moment that brings that massive cosmic scale right back down to your own intimate reality. When you feel that sudden shiver of wonder, our source material poses it as a really powerful reminder. You are not an accident. According to this framework, you aren't just a random clump of cosmic dust floating through a cold universe. You are entirely known, and you were placed here with a purpose.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. Think back to that image we started with, our silent, fragile home glowing alone in the dark. If you were up there, floating in the quiet of the cosmos, staring at the absolute precision and the just breathtaking beauty of Earth, could you honestly convince yourself that it is all just one big random coincidence? Or like the astronauts who have been up there before us, would that awakened awe inside you cause you to finally start searching for answers? Take a moment today to just look up and let that question echo in the silence.